Drake Arnold is a Florida-based artist. He creates traditional paintings and murals with spiritual, mystical, and psychedelic qualities. He is the founder of Fractal-Spirit, an apparel company and artist collective. Today, we talk about his life as an artist, live painting for music festivals, and augmented reality. I sincerely hope you enjoy this interview. Welcome to the show, Drake Arnold. I'm really happy to have you on.
Thanks, Avery. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so to begin, I mean, you're a really interesting guy because you do both murals. I see that you have like an augmented reality app. I mean, that's really interesting to me. I've seen things like that, but that's definitely something that I find really fascinating. And then you also have a business called Fractal-Spirit. So I'm definitely interested in talking about all those different things. But yeah, I mean, if you can tell us how your story begins, and particularly, I'm always interested in hearing if an artist is, if they've always been creative since like childhood. I'm always interested in hearing if creativity and art just came naturally to them, or if it kind of grew into them, as they got older, if they became more fascinated with art and became more interested in it. So yeah, can you tell us where your story begins?
Yeah, sure, certainly. I had a couple influences that helped me get into art at a very young age. Most pronouncedly, my brother. He's like 7 years older than me, and he was into comic books and drawing and sketching and that kind of stuff. So he kind of got me into it. As well as one of my aunts was an art teacher, and she gave me as a Christmas or birthday present, like my own first sketchbook that I had as a kid. So I feel like that's kind of what pushed me into it, and I definitely have identified artistically since a young age. Like I've always been interested in art and trying to make art. Now that being said, I don't think I was artistically inclined. Like I've been interested in art the whole time since I was like a little kid, but taking classes in high school, for instance, I was never the best artist in class in high school. There was a ton of other kids that were way better than me. Like I don't feel like it came naturally to me. I think it took a really long time, and my work was very mediocre for a really, really long time before it finally started kind of catching up to where I wanted it to be. And that's always a work in progress. I don't know that I'm there now, but it's it gets easier and better over time.
Yeah. Now I'm also interested in like, were you were you self-taught or did you get some sort of formal art education?
Well, as far as that goes, I mean, I did take a lot of art classes in high school and that sort of thing. And really, though, I predominantly identified as a musician in that time period and into college and all that. Like I played a lot of music, and that was my primary creative outlet. I still painted, but it was kind of on the back burner. Art was that was kind of. I've always been interested in a lot of stuff, and it's hard for me to just pick one thing and stick with it. So, especially whenever I was younger, I would switch around between the different various pastimes or hobbies a lot, and move in and out of playing music and making art, and trying to learn new different types of instruments or different painting mediums and that kind of thing. But yeah, at any rate, it's been a journey.
Yeah. Now, are there any like artists that like have influenced your style, the things you like? Because I can tell a lot of your art is spiritual, psychedelic kind of, very colorful. Is there any artists that like have influenced the way you work?
Oh, sure. I mean, from a very young age, I was really interested in MC Escher, for instance, and Salvador Dali. The classics, the greats. So people like that have been a big influence over the years. And Later in life, as I kind of came across different various things, there were figures like Alex Gray, for instance. He's one of those, contemporary masters of a certain type of genre that, super influential at a certain time period in my development. And yeah, even still to this day, there's tons of contemporary artists I could probably figure out who, if I looked at my social media and be like, oh yeah, that guy's work is sick. I feel like there's a never ending amount of inspiration all around. And it's hard not to feel inspired by other artists and just by being surrounded by life and nature all the time.
Yeah. And did you go traveling? Because I remember reading your bio on your website. You went traveling around to different state parks and things like that.
Yeah, totally. I spent a long period doing live painting at music festivals, maybe like 7 or 8 years or something. Basically, up until the quarantine, I was just traveling around and painting at music festivals, and that was kind of like my job, more or less, in a way. And yeah, any excuse I get to go see nature and be a part of nature is I try to take advantage of it. So anytime I'd be traveling for work for music festivals, I'd always make side trips on the road trip to visit the national parks and just try to camp and spend time outdoors.
Yeah, that's awesome. So nature is definitely a big inspiration for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You like animals, like I even see your big tiger painting right there. That is a painting, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I thought it would make an interesting backdrop for the our conversation.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's see. I mean, as far as like music festivals, I mean, how do you get into like music festivals? I mean, how are you commissioned by someone, or do you, um, submit your work in some kind of way, or how do you get to actually do these paintings?
Sure, yeah. So much has changed from the time I got into it until now. I mean, Lord knows there's not even events really happening right now so much, but uh, at this point, almost every music festival or event has applications to get involved on their website. And you can typically apply to be an artist or a live painter or performer the way that you would apply to be a vendor or anything else, and if they like your work, you can get accepted. I feel like the stakes are a little bit higher and things are a little bit more complicated. Like back whenever I was getting into it, it was maybe in like 2014 or something like that. And there weren't really, like, it wasn't as big of a thing. So a lot of the times there weren't really like applications on the website. And I'd just like send emails to random email addresses and like, hit people up. I feel like it was easier to get in, but like, yeah, then I got, because I yeah, I don't know. I feel like I just got lucky by getting in early, and then I got because I had a bunch of stuff already under my belt. By a certain point, people like I was already established. By the time it started getting like really saturated with a lot of artists applying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, at these music festivals, I mean, do you get like a large crowd of people surrounding you, while you're painting?
Yeah, certainly. Although I wouldn't say it's like I don't ever feel like I'm the middle of some sort of show or something. It's more like people come and go. People will stop and watch you. Maybe your friends will kind of stick around and bullshit over your shoulder, but it's like it's an ever evolving cast of people who are all various stages of interested or disinterested. It is. It's a mixed bag of nuts.
Is it usually like on a big canvas, or are you painting on the side of a building?
At music festivals, typically a lot of live painting occurs just on an easel and canvas. Um, some music festivals have mural walls for artists to paint. I mean, it's hard to just say anything generically about any one kind of thing or category in general because every single music festival is different. It like so much depends on how big it is, how much is going into the production, how many people will be there, the site itself, the location that it occurs, how much space there is to expand, or the budget available for mural panels and all that. So what I've come to realize is it's hard to say that there's like some rule of thumb about what to expect from doing music festivals because it's different every time.
Yeah, yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I mean, I discovered you through watching a video from Pete Canaris. He basically does like farm and garden tours, permaculture,
I'm
stuff like
totally
that. What's that?
Yeah, I'm totally familiar. I watch his videos as well. I actually am super into permaculture and sustainable farming.
Yeah, so am I and my family. We're trying to grow food and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely big fan
yeah.
of his. But yeah, we were watching his video and we saw the mural at the Rainbow Rise Family Farm. Yeah, I think that's what it was called. And you did that mural in collaboration with Justin Alsdeck, correct?
Indeed,
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah.
yeah. So how did you get that job?
That's a good question. I don't really remember exactly. I really, I really don't remember how that one. It kind of just fell in my lap. Maybe I knew somebody who. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like it was really, it's like a lot of how I feel like I've gotten business has been through word of mouth, and it's all kind of happening in a mysterious way to me. And I'm incredibly grateful. I'm just thankful that the ball keeps on rolling, the wheels keep on spinning, things just keep on happening. I have no idea how they keep happening. I just feel really grateful.
Yeah, yeah. But speaking of gratefulness, I mean, since your work definitely is very spiritual in nature, do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
um, yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like I've gone through a lot of different periods in my life. I guess I was raised in like in a Lutheran school growing up until about middle school, and so that's how I identified was somewhat Christian as a child, and then like I went through a long period of, well, maybe not long, but a few years period of atheism after like kind of coming to terms with my own life or my own thoughts, around that age, and then my atheism kind of slowly dissolved into some sort of agnosticism, and at some point in the last decade, maybe to 10 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was at this point, maybe 10 years ago or something, but I've definitely had experiences that made me feel like a direct connection with some sort of higher intelligence in the universe. I don't know that, God is such a loaded word with so much connotations. The word God for me, it's like cringe inducing almost because of the associations it pulls up in my mind. It's probably what I'm talking about. I just don't like to use the word. I don't know. I feel like a connection to something in the universe that's both outside of myself and within me in everything. Yeah, maybe it's like I don't know. Yeah, I guess I feel some sort of spiritual something or other, but I don't necessarily identify with any one specific denomination or affiliation.
Yeah, I mean, some people like to use the word instead of God, universe, source, things like that,
Totally. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
anyone can just, kind of. I think most people can find some kind of spiritual connection, to the world, to the universe. They don't have to use the word God. They can find some other format of seeing the world, and no one's right or wrong. Everyone's almost talking about the same thing. It's just, different wording.
Totally. As a matter of fact, I myself identify as somebody who is very non-committal in terms of I believe everybody's entitled to their own opinions, so much so that I don't really form very many of my own. I try to keep myself completely wide open in terms of my own belief systems and what I think, because I feel like the moment that you really start deciding on what you think, it's closing off your mind to the things that you don't think. I try not to form preferences if I can avoid it. And I feel like that makes me kind of wishy-washy in conversation. People will want to try to pin me down to like a position, and I'm kind of just like nothingness.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I don't have like any hard set belief on anything, I'm very open-minded as a person, and I like that word, open-minded, that's why I would say I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm now interested in talking about the augmented reality stuff because that's really interesting to me. Although I guess first we should talk about your company, Fractal-Spirit. How did that come about? Why did you decide to create a apparel art company?
Well, mostly in an attempt to make ends meet. As an artist, I'm sure you're aware how difficult it is to make a living, and the universal trope of the starving artist or whatever. It's a common idea. It's how most people just like feel bad for you if you introduce yourself as an artist. They're like, "Oh, that's okay, yeah, right on." Or I don't know. It's like if you tell your parents that you want to be an artist as a kid, they're like, "No, no, no, no." You know what I mean? Not that my parents necessarily did that. They were pretty supportive, but just in general, it's like being an artist. It's hard to make a living painting to painting, like the way that most people live paycheck to paycheck. The longer I traveled around doing music festivals and events and trying to figure out, I held a day job for most of forever. I held a day job forever while also traveling and doing events and trying to sell my art and figure out how to make it as an artist. And what I realized was the more revenue streams you have as an artist, the more financial freedom you have to not worry about living painting to painting. So, that involves for me, I started making reproductions of my paintings, and that actually enabled me to change the way I painted completely. Like prior to that, I was having an emphasis on painting a lot of kind of generic paintings just to have like a quantity of inventory or something. And then once I started making reproductions or photographing and making prints of my paintings, it made me realize I could actually just work on one painting for 6 months straight and then make a zillion copies of that painting. And it's going to be a lot cooler to look at, to be honest with you, than pumping out 15 paintings in one afternoon that are kind of like, you know what I mean? So there was a several year period. Before I even really kind of put together my company Fractal-Spirit, there was years of time where I was just going to Red Rocks and hucking prints out of the back of my car in the parking lot, like tailgating before the show, essentially. You know what I mean? And I'd set up a little table and I'd drink my beers and I'd sell prints of my work and I'd set up an easel and I'd paint. And this all worked out really great for me. And I just kept on trying to figure out how to go deeper and push deeper into that direction. And eventually it led me to printing shirts and stuff like that. And obviously if you're gonna print shirts, you gotta have some sort of a logo or something like that. It's got to, to build a recognizable brand is a lot more useful than to just have one product floating along by itself in the ether. So right, it was like something of an invention of necessity where I'm trying to figure out how to support myself and make a living. And it occurs to me that many, many more people are inclined to invest in a $20 t-shirt that has a simple utilitarian function that they can wear it and they look delightful, as opposed to one single original painting that's well exceeds even my means to afford it. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, at any rate, I started a t-shirt company, basically going on there, and it's great. It's a way for me to anonymously kind of disappear and make it bigger than myself as well. Like
Yeah.
my first misguided attempts, I was trying to I was printing my own name, like it was like Drake Arnold Art on my t-shirt, and then after tripping and having freakouts and thinking to myself, man, I don't want to have like I've never liked that type of designer name brand shit, like where it's got like a gentleman's name on the clothing and I'm gonna wear it like Ralph Lauren or Tommy Hilfiger. Not that there's anything wrong with that or people that wear those brands. I mean, those brands are fine. I don't care. It's just that was never my shit. My shit was like silver, quicksilver, or some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Billabong. It was like a random fucking word. So eventually I rebranded myself from Drake Arnold Art over to Fractal-Spirit, and I could kind of like invite my friends to become part of the process and let them produce their merchandise through the company as well. And it could be like bigger than just me, is I guess what I was hoping for and shooting for, try to turn it into like a little family or something. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it's been fun, you know. It's been a nice thing to have going in addition to making art.
Yeah. And I did read, yeah, it's a collective. So is it just you and your friends, or do you allow other people to apply for it?
That's a great question. It's pretty informal, you know. Sometimes people hit me up. I don't necessarily, I can't, I've never been able to afford to make even my own merchandise, let alone other people's. I mean, I have been financing this company, meticulously keeping track of everything on spreadsheets and using credit cards to invest in money. And then, you know, I'll sell X amount and I can pay off my debt, and then I'll sell the rest, and then I can invest in twice as much as I bought the first time, and then do that like 50 times in a row, and it gets bigger and bigger and crazier and bigger. And that's basically where I'm at. And I've never really had the money to be able to afford to start a company, but I couldn't afford to wait for somebody to do it for me. You know what I mean? So I just figured out how to do it myself using credit cards and spreadsheets. And I got to tell you, you know, it's anybody can do what I'm doing. That being said, if anybody wanted to get involved, I usually let them. I just can't finance it. You know, it's like if people have the money, I have the knowledge, we can make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really
But
cool.
you know how it is. I just, there's so many talented people out there. If I could afford to produce a merchandise or apparel for everybody, well, that'd be crazy. I wish I could.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, tell me about your app, your augmented reality app. And did you create that yourself?
Indeed, I did. Yes, it's a. Well, where do I start? Do you want me to just ramble about a bunch of technical information,
Yeah, well,
or?
I'm interested in learning why you decided to do it.
Right. Well, the implications were immediately obvious to me. The more I started doing, how do you call that? Like a mental, like just imagining the idea of augmented reality itself. I mean, gee whiz, you can make digital content manifest from the surface of physical content. I should back up and say I've spent a lot of time earlier in between being a musician and getting obsessed with painting. I spent probably a solid like 5 years or so doing animations. Uh, Cartoons are magical. I love the ability to combine. You can combine static art with music into a dynamic medium that's more than either one alone. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can turn a shitty drawing into like, you know, something beautiful and interesting by the way of its actions and through time and motion. But yeah, at any rate, so this was for me, augmented reality was like a way to bring my interest in animation and combine it with paintings in a whole new cutting edge technology that, I mean, it's in its infancy. It hasn't even begun to be realized on the grand scale that it can be, and I think it will be in the coming years. I mean, for me, I believe augmented reality is going to essentially be the technology that replaces cell phones to one extent or another. Once we have wearable devices that are comfortable, and companies are working on them. You know, the Google glasses and there's tons of shit out there that exists. It's not quite like, I think Apple's going to release their AR glasses in the next year or so. But I mean, could you imagine how much is going to change when AR hits the mainstream at an affordable consumer level? Like, no more would you ever print a billboard on the side of the highway where it's like one specific ad that you hope that the person driving by is going to relate with it. Instead, I mean, you could literally leave blank billboards and it would project an augmented reality advertisement based on the person who's looking at its browser history. Like everybody who sees a billboard would see a billboard that's uniquely catered to the things that they're specifically interested in. And that's just like one random, specific, and gross, might I add, example of how augmented reality will intrude into our daily lives. But from a consumer's perspective or standpoint, that's the type of thing that's going to push it into the mainstream due to the money. It's always all about money, really, with business, you know. And at any rate, you know, it's like right now, how crazy is life? We're like driving down the interstate at 70 miles per hour, looking at our cell phones for the GPS, trying to figure out where we're going. You know, the technology's already here. We could have the whole entire like lane of highway light up and start flashing what color you need to, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the road itself could be the map, like the GPS, all the information could be like just overlaid in your vision, your field of view. The I guess I sound like a crazy person. I think the truth of the matter is, though, it's going to be a few years, but once we all have wearable augmented reality devices, it's going to completely change everything about how we interface with reality. And yeah, right. So I just think it's an exciting technology. I'm totally
Yeah.
interested
Yeah.
to get into it while it's still in its infancy, because I really see it becoming our everyday interface with the future.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Also a little bit scary, but interesting.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fundamental with change, though. You know, it's like there's something scary about the unknown, and when you couple that with the hearts and minds of men, you know, I guess it's understandable to be afraid because people don't always have the best interests of other people in mind. But I think I'm inherently optimistic. You know, I have to be, because if I wasn't, I'd just blow my brains out.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
I definitely think technology still has a very important place with art, you know. And I was watching the one video where I think you have a VR headset on and you're painting a mural, and I thought that was really interesting.
yeah, I ought to do that again sometime. That was fun. Yeah, I think it's a tool, just like anything else. You know, technology is like a hammer. You know, you can use it to build a house, or you can use it to smash everything and ruin your life.
Yeah.
Nothing is inherently good or evil. It's all just as it's all contextual or relative to the human consciousness that's interfacing with it. And yeah, I just have to believe in the good of people, man. It makes life funner to play, even if it's not realistic. It's makes it a funner game to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as like the app goes, so I mean, I would like to know a little bit of technical stuff that you did since you made it yourself. I mean, how,
Sure.
what kind of programs or code did you use, or you know, I'm interested. Are you still there?
It- yeah, sorry, the video paused for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, at any rate, I'll pick up with that question though. Essentially, I used a program called Unity, which you can use to develop mobile games and mobile apps and such. And I used that software Unity to develop the app, and I used another software called Blender, which is an open source 3D modeling software, 3D animation software, to generate most of the content. The app itself uses image recognition technology to recognize images. So I train it to recognize images of my painting specifically. And then I use Blender to generate 3D animations similar to the way that Pixar would generate 3D animation for a movie like, you know, whatever's the latest Pixar movie. And using Unity, I synchronized the content from Blender with the images of my painting, and then export that as a finished package that can be uploaded to the app stores, the Apple App Store and the Android Google Play Store. And so then essentially, you know, when it's on your phone will be able to recognize the images of my paintings and start playing back the associated 3D animations interactively based on the perspective of the observer. So, you know, essentially you can walk around the 3D content and view the 3D content from any angle, depending on your viewing angle
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
really cool. And I use Blender. I'm a Blender buff.
Blender rules. Yeah. So yeah, it's, I mean, it's just really kind of combining Blender and Unity and I mean, there might have been a few other things. I think I did some. I did Blender for the 3D content, and I also did some like 2D videos and other types of flat animations using After Effects and some other stuff like that, and incorporated those videos into some of the interactions as well. But yeah, for the most part, that's pretty much it. You can find all that stuff. I taught myself how to do all of this using tutorials on YouTube. So I mean, now that being said, I probably didn't get to paint for like 6 months straight because I was working on developing an app. It took a shitload of time away from everything takes time away from painting. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, that's the problem. Like with Fractal-Spirit's all great and fine, but I don't give a fuck about doing retail. I don't care about selling t-shirts. I want to be painting. It was all an end, a means to an end. You know what I mean? Same with the mobile app. You know, it's cool, man. It is novel because it is completely far out. It's a brand new cutting edge technology. But at the end of the day, I don't know, man. I like getting my hands dirty with real
Yeah.
paint.
Yeah.
Fuck. So you know, I'd say go for it though. If anybody has any interest, you can totally look up how to do it on YouTube. That being said, I got in whenever it was really brand new. This was maybe like 2018, whenever I purchased my license for making the app or whatever. And I believe that the price has gone up significantly since then because at that point they were trying to entice people to try out this new technology. And now that it's a bit more established, I think that I wouldn't be able to afford to do the same. I wouldn't be able to afford to do it now. That's the honest truth. I got in whenever I got lucky, man. I feel really another thing I feel just really grateful about with that
Yeah.
whole thing. It's they were practically giving them away back in the day, the licenses.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, at any rate.
Yeah. How has like, because I don't like to bring up the pandemic too much because, everyone's already being bombarded with that information all day, every day. But it's still important to know how different people are handling things, the situation of life right now. As an artist, how has the pandemic affected, your career as an artist? Have you really had any time to do murals lately because of the pandemic?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I feel a little bit insensitive because I know that this has been one of the hardest years of many people's lives. But for me personally, this has easily, hands down, been the best year of my life, best couple years of my life. I mean, I just had a daughter. She's about to turn 2 years old, and she's like so sweet, man. I've just been spending a ton of time with her, and we live out completely in the middle of nowhere, like in a swamp, way, way the fuck in the middle of nowhere. And it's so peaceful and relaxing. It's like, most people would probably never want to live out here. It takes 30 minutes to get to a grocery store. I'm not even joking, but it's so cool, man. Like it feels like I'm in a bird sanctuary. You can hear like sandhill cranes just whooping in the distance. It's really beautiful. And I've never been busier, to be honest. It's like as soon as the pandemic started, at the time, I was really predominantly making my living vending and live painting at music festivals and traveling all around doing that. And I was basically able to very seamlessly transition from event to mural work and have had a pretty steady stream of mural work for the entire pandemic. Like one thing, I did one big job at the very beginning of the pandemic last year. And I think just based on the word of mouth from that job or whatever, like I just kept getting one job after the next job after the next. And maybe from word of mouth from those, I kept getting more. It's been crazy though. I mean, in terms of every aspect of my life, my family life, my home life, my personal life, my work life, my professional life as an artist. Like I feel so satisfied and fulfilled and grateful with the opportunities to keep landing in my lap. And I barely even know where they came from. Like I was saying about the Rainbow Rise Farms gig. It's life's just, I've been ready and willing this whole entire time to just quit being an artist and get a real job. I've got a kid now. I've got a daughter. I can't afford to. I got to take care of my family. I'm ready to just get a 9 to 5 day job if I have to. And every time, there's never been a time like things just keep happening. Like opportunities keep showing up, and the path is clear in front of me. I see what I need to do and where I need to go to continue on this path. And it's been beautiful, man. I feel really grateful.
Yeah, that's awesome. You live in Florida, right?
Indeed, yes.
And you don't have to give your exact location, but you're in Ocala.
I'm actually about halfway in between Ocala and Gainesville in a small area known as Citra.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a swamp. It's like literally it's halfway in between Ocala and Gainesville. I mean, if you're familiar with Florida, then I'm sure you know it's completely in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I live in the Pensacola area, which is more city-like. So, we don't have as much swamplands around here. But we do go down to Wakulla County area, which that's where one of our murals is, because one of our murals, well, actually, our 2 murals that we did, they're at the Wakulla County Extension Office. And they're like really beautiful nature murals, lots of animals, real plants. We particularly made very specific plant choices in these murals. But yeah, and those were, meant to kind of showcase the Florida wildlife and beauty.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, if you're ever down there, go check it out. So Wakulla County Extension Office, and it's in Crawfordville. It's near Tallahassee.
Right on. Yeah, it's like we were talking about Green Dreams, Pete's YouTube channel or whatever. I'm actually totally into permaculture, sustainable food forest gardening. I go down to my local extension office somewhat regularly to fuck around with the master gardeners down there and stuff. It's totally cool to be part of that world. And I think honestly, that's really been one of the more enriching parts of the last couple of years for me too. Has really been my, I was such a 2-dimensional cartoon character. Like if you ever talked to me as a person, I'd be like art, blah blah blah, art. Like is all I'd ever talk about. Like it's like I get off work and go back to work. Like 24 hours a day, I'm just fucking thinking about and talking about art. And after being a professional artist for a few years and having a kid and shit, I'm like, man, I gotta find a hobby to, whenever I'm not being a dad or working, like, career wise, I need something else to think about or do besides just being like a one note, like art only type of guy. So getting in, I've only really gotten into the gardening and edible plants maybe about for 2 years now, but that's been the most satisfying, rewarding way to pass time when I'm not being a dad or an artist. My gosh, there's something incredibly therapeutic about getting your hands dirty and eating like a tomato that's hot from the sun in your own garden. Gee whiz.
Yeah, yeah. And especially with the pandemic right now, it's actually very important to grow your own food. We tell all kinds of people that, you got to grow your own food, at least start a little bed in your front yard or backyard or whatever. Just grow something, just start somewhere. That's very important right now.
Totally. Yeah. It's, I can't believe it took me so long to realize that, basically all the food in the grocery stores is just chock so full of like sugar and other unhealthy shit. It's like poison. You're just poisoning yourself. Like eating the regular food that's just societally accepted as normal food. You're literally just poisoning yourself. Everything's so full of sugar. It's crazy.
Yeah. Especially fast food. That's the last thing you want to put in your mouth.
It's true. I mean, what can I say? If I could even just grow like a little bit of the food I consume here on the property, I'd be happy, you know. And it's at this point, after a couple years, we're already there, man. It's crazy. Last Thanksgiving, we basically ate nothing but food that we grew and here on the property.
Oh wow, that's awesome. You've got a head start.
Yeah, man, it was brutal. Actually, that was I butchered three Peking ducks for that meal, and that was my first time butchering an animal. Yeah, I'm like a peace and love hippie artist, like trying to paint spiritually uplifting psychedelic artwork, and I also butcher ducks. So
Yeah,
that's a
well, I think there's a balance, like the Native American belief is, I mean, they of course hunted animals, but they treated everything with respect and love, and they gave thanks for everything they got, you know.
That's how I feel, you know. It's like I'd much rather consume an animal that I know that the quality of life that it's lived, it wasn't crammed into a small cage, but it was able to free range, and I know what I was feeding it, and I know how it died, you know. And if I'm going to be someone who consumes meat in this modern world, I would at least like to have a deeper connection to it instead of it just being some abstraction that I pick up plastic wrapped at a store. Like I'd much rather have some sort of a tangible connection with life in that way. And it really, I think, gives me a deeper appreciation for a lot of stuff for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll probably wind this interview down soon, but something that I do want to ask is because this is a big topic right now. I don't know if you have an opinion on it, but since you're a digital artist too and you do fractal animations, I think you might at least know about NFTs. You've heard about them.
Yeah, for sure.
What are your thoughts on it? I'm very much on the fence about them, but it is a big topic, so I just wanted to hear another artist's opinion on that.
I'll be honest. The I've spent the last basically all year. What time is it? What day is this? Man, uh, well, it's May, I guess, pretty much. I've spent all year like ignoring the internet and social media and everything. I I feel great. Yeah, it's been awesome. I haven't been posting shit. I haven't been the truth of the matter is I don't have an opinion about NFTs. I don't even give a fuck. I could easily mint a bunch of NFTs and try to sell them if I wanted to. I've got an endless amount of digital content and interesting stuff that I think would make great for that type of scenario. I mean, I've even gone so far in the past as I mean, I have crypto wallets. I've done crypto mining. Like I'm totally like it's a realm that I fucks with on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm telling you, man, there's been nothing more therapeutic or beautiful or soul purifying for me personally than spending time in my garden, in the sunlight, outdoors with fresh air. I don't give a fuck, man. You can't make me get back on that computer. I would much rather be outside, like in real life, enjoying my real life with my real human daughter than on social media or fucking thinking about goddamn bullshit that's so I don't even give a fuck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
I
I
mean,
mean that's
we haven't watched TV in years, and if you really need the news, you can just look it up online, but at least you have the choice to, when you just leave that TV on, it's just spewing garbage out at you, it's a total waste of time and energy.
now when I say all this and I'm laughing and I'm like I don't give a fuck. The truth of the matter is I oscillate back and forth like a pendulum between extremities or polarities, and there is a season, and for all seasons, turn, or whatever the expression goes. It's entirely possible that I will check back in with the internet and decide to like start a TikTok account and start pushing NFTs at some point. I don't know. Right now, I've been enjoying the hiatus. Like I've really been enjoying it, but I could foreseeably see myself like pushing back into the digital stuff. I mean, my God, if I'm going to develop an augmented reality mobile app, like I've already got obviously a foot in the digital door in terms of my interests and the way that I like to spend my time. I've totally like it swings back and forth for me. And right now I'm back in real life. Maybe soon I'll be back to the other side again. I don't know. I'm not necessarily in any rush though.
Yeah. I mean, that brings me to another point. Do you have any future projects or anything that you're working on towards the future with?
For sure. Yeah, I've been kind of, I've put a pin in taking commissions and that kind of stuff. I'm completely uninterested for the most part. Same thing with, I was doing like mural gigs that I would describe as being commercial mural gigs, as opposed to what I would describe as my own fine art mural gigs. Putting a pin in that type of shit too, so that I can focus on. I've got like a couple of personal art projects in mind that are kind of like passion projects, I guess you could say, that I want to do. So like studio work, that is.
Okay, yeah.
And aside from that, if I'm just gonna, I'm kind of like looking to get away from doing smaller murals, is a good way to put it, I guess.
So you're
I
trying to go big.
Yeah, I could easily do a bunch of mural work if I wanted to do like little murals for cheaply, but I don't really. I'd rather just focus on doing what I want to do, and a lot of the times that means I've never been able to do art for anybody but me, and people will see my art and they'll be like, "That's cool, man. I need you. Can I hire you to paint this?" And it's like nothing like anything that's anything like my work, and I don't want to do that anymore. I'm so tired of doing that. I mean, money is useful, and I totally need money. So I mean, I keep washing up doing these like kind of random gigs. But yeah, as far as projects coming up, I mean, I've got a couple projects in the works, but none of them. I don't like to jinx it whenever they're not like when the contract hasn't been signed yet. Like there's like really, I'm saying like 90%, it's happening. It's already happened, but I don't want to throw it out until it's already done. Like I like to wait until the project's done. I don't like to hype it beforehand.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Who knows what
understandable.
who knows what could
I'm the
happen
same
between
way
now
with
and then.
things.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in terms of stuff I do want to talk about, or I could talk about, I have ideas for how I want to fuse my future studio work with programmable computer chips to make interactive paintings, essentially. So that's on
Yeah,
the horizon.
okay. Well, that's cool. Um, yeah, as I guess to, bring things to a close, here's a final question. I asked you, as far as artists who inspire you, but as a person, as a human being, who inspires you?
That's a great question. There's a lot of people. I was just listening to several audiobooks and reading several regular books, and I'd say a lot of what my literature or the things that I take in my spare time that is not art related. It is a lot of spiritual community related stuff. I was just reading Thich Nhat Hanh. I just finished Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. I just reread Ram Dass's Be Here Now because it had been a while. Why not? It's a great book. It's a classic. As well as I just went through what's that author's name? Michael Singer's sequel after Untethered Soul. He just put out I think it's called The Surrender Experiment. Another great book. What else was there? I just went through. There's like another one I just did that was also pretty good. And I am totally drawing a blank on whatever it was. Oh, it was my man, dude. It was Eckhart Tolle.
Ah,
What was it? It was A New Earth or whatever, I think was the one that I just did it from him. There's a million people that are embody the essence of the thing, you know,
yeah, yeah,
and I love trying to let it rub off on me. Fuck, who doesn't love Alan Watts or something, for instance? You know, there's something so infectious about listening to his lectures and hearing him and his charming laughter. I think it's like medicine for the soul.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know you said you're not like, much on the internet anymore, but where can people find you?
I've got all the social media pretty much. I just haven't been using it. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I even have a TikTok account. I just have never posted on anything on it. I've got a Twitter. I've got, like YouTube, Vimeo. Like I've got all. Basically, you just search for Drake Arnold art, and you'll find me. I'm out there.
Yeah, and Fractal-Spirit.
And Fractal-Spirit, right? That's a whole nother thing, man. Shit, if you think I'm not updating my personal social media, you ought to experience how little I update Fractal-Spirit, baby. It's true. It's true.
Well, I mean, we both live in Florida, so there's always the possibility we might meet up somewhere in real life.
Hit me up anytime if you're ever going through North Central Florida, or if you're driving on I-75 in between Ocala and Gainesville. I'm like 15 minutes off the interstate. You're welcome
Yeah.
to stop by anytime, brother.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really enjoyed this conversation.
The pleasure's all mine. I hope to chat with you again soon, Avery.